COVID was the best and worst advertisement for supply chain that we could have ever wanted. And it really has set an understanding for customers, both direct customers and also the expectations of what your B2B customers are looking for in that consumer goods space.
Supply chain is big for consumer goods companies. We've got tons of big disruptors, changes happening within the space. And what's intriguing me the most is really about consumers' perspective and what's happening in supply chain. Me as a consumer, I'm really interested in a lot more of that, information than I've ever wanted to know before. So would love to know your perspective there and what you're seeing with some clients that we're working with, and how do we get through it?
As you look at the consumer goods industry, it's really, we've gone through some significant changes in what the perception of what supply chain is and the understanding of what supply chain is. As disruptions happen, this is what, what companies really need to be able to handle is what happens when there's a change in the supply chain, and how do you ultimately let customers know as quickly as possible what's going to happen to their product. We've all become accustomed to what Amazon tells us, but there's more to that, and these consumer goods companies need to work with all of the companies that they work with so that they can get their product out and get it sold to their customers and get it in their hands.
So Bob, what are you seeing? What do customers want to know differently?
Well, I think there's just an expectation of what's really available, what's out there, when is it going to be available. And today, you look at the visibility of the supply chain, it's an expectation not from just what's on the shelf in the store, all the way back to if it's not on the shelf, when will it be on the shelf? And so those companies need to be working with their suppliers, providing visibility to the entire supply chain so that we know all the way back to ultimately raw material suppliers. When is this stuff going to be available? How does it flow through the cycle? And when will it be on the shelf again? We see these disruptions happening all the time. Yes, COVID was the poster child, and then we had a boat that went sideways in the Suez Canal, and this stuff happens all the time though. So companies need to be able to let their consumers know and have confidence, especially when it's really critical stuff like feeding your family. So there's a lot of stuff that's important for us to be looking at as consumer goods and supply chain professionals as to what is out there in that supply chain and where's the data and when's the product going to be available.
Consumers want more information. Suppliers, are they able to provide this information? How are they going to do this? What are supply chain and consumer goods companies doing to overcome kind of these huge hurdles they have?
We've had the capabilities to share this information from a supplier to the consumer good manufacturer and ultimately the sellers. It's there, but it's a different perspective and a different view. You look at it from, kind of the buzz around a supply chain control tower and that visibility. The key is really supply chain visibility. Where's that product? How do we interact better with across the supply chain to all of our different partners? That's really what it comes down to. And companies just need to work better. That the supply chain is now a collaborative supply chain of multiple companies, not just what you do in your four walls of your own company.
We've always thought about supply chain as they're the manufacturer, the people that make the product, but my interest in what you're doing, how you're doing it, when it's going to get to me, and just what it means to me because of the digital age, we're all connected now. And so I think to your point of supply chain is changing from a not only communication perspective and a digital age perspective, but just agility. And consumer goods companies, do you feel like they're set up to kind of deal with this changing consumer and what they want to know and how they need to know it?
They have the capability. It's just a matter of how do we then take that data, to help tell that story. And then based on that data, we go back into the supply chain and look at what is the best way to fulfill consumer needs. Omni-channel fulfillment, direct shipment out of stores. If it's not in my store here, can I ship it out of a different store? These are all things that consumers now expect. And, the better we can do it within the supply chain, the more market share your consumer goods company is going to take. In the past, supply chain was something that people just didn't even want to hear about unless it broke.
What do you think is next? What do you think are some other big problems these big consumer goods companies are, you know, being challenged with.
You said something a bit earlier about how it's made. Where does it come from? That is all something that consumers really care about. And what they care about is that it is sustainable. It is ethical. It's coming from places that's better for the world. And, you know, supply chain's got a bit of a black eye with respect to that, supply chain and manufacturing. And so sustainability is the challenge. It's as big a challenge as there is for the future going forward in this industry.